One brother getting this good is hard to believe. One family producing a first overall pick, a drafted defense prospect, and a younger kid already lighting up youth hockey before he's old enough to drive is the kind of thing hockey usually saves for famous last names you grew up hearing from your dad. The Sutters, the Tkachuks, the Hughes brothers. Families that stop feeling like individual careers and start feeling like part of the sport itself. The Celebrinis are moving into that territory now. And if you think this is just another story about a hot prospect and a little brother with nice highlights, stay with it, because the deeper you go, the stranger it gets. This is a family built across soccer, hockey, sports science, the NBA, and some of the best development paths in North America. One son is already becoming the face of an NHL rebuild. Another is grinding through the hard path as a defense prospect. The youngest one is already putting up numbers that make people stop scrolling. So the question is no longer whether the Celebrinis are a hockey family. The question is how big this can get. Because if Macklin keeps climbing, if Aiden gets to the league, and if RJ turns into what early signs suggest, then this stops being a cool family story and turns into something heavier. A family that might end up sitting beside the biggest names hockey has ever produced. Once you look at the background, the numbers, and the way this family has built itself, it stops sounding crazy and starts sounding early. The first thing you need to understand is that this did not begin in some ordinary hockey household where one kid happened to be better than the rest. The whole setup was different from the start. Rick Celebrini, the father, did not come through hockey, he came through soccer. He played for Canada's under-20 national team, represented the country at the 1987 FIFA World Youth Championship, and spent years as a professional defender. Then the injuries started piling up, especially in the lower body, and his career bent in another direction. Some athletes spend years trying to hang on to the old life. Rick built a new one. He got into physiotherapy, earned a degree, later completed a PhD in rehabilitation sciences, and climbed into elite performance work at the highest level. That career took him everywhere. He worked with the Canadian Alpine Ski Team, the Vancouver Whitecaps, the Vancouver Canucks, and then in 2018 joined the Golden State Warriors, where he became one of the key people in sports medicine and performance inside one of the biggest dynasties of the last decade. Because the Celebrini kids did not just grow up around sports. They grew up around elite preparation, recovery, sleep, structure, movement. The little details that most players do not truly learn until they're already fighting for jobs. In that house, those ideas were normal. Their mother, Robyn, brought the same edge. Former college soccer captain, competitive, disciplined. Every public description of the family points in the same direction. The parents pushed standards. But they never turned the house into some rigid machine. The kids were allowed to love sport, not just perform it. There is a detail Steve Kerr shared that says a lot. He talked about seeing the entire Celebrini family, including Robyn, playing pickup 3-on-3 on the Warriors practice court. That simple image tells you what the atmosphere was like. This was a family built around movement, games, and competition all the time. Aiden is the oldest, born in 2004, right-shot defenseman. His path is the least flashy, which makes sense because defense-first prospects almost always live in the shadows a little longer. At Shattuck St. Mary's 18U team in 2021-22, he had 2 goals and 30 assists for 32 points in 55 games. Useful offense, but that stat line also tells you what he was not trying to be. He was there to defend, move pucks, and make coaches trust him. Then he went to the Brooks Bandits in the AJHL, put up 21 points in 47 games, and helped them win a national title. The scouting reports sound familiar every time you read them. Mobile, good gap control, physical enough, reliable on the penalty kill, smart defensive reads. The kind of player who does not usually become a star, but the kind contenders need anyway. Vancouver took him in the 6th round in 2023, which matters because one son was already drafted and one lane was already real. Born in 2006 in North Vancouver, Macklin started in the North Shore system. Then the family move to California shifted the route in a way that still feels unusual when you say it out loud. One of the NHL's next great center prospects partly built himself in the Bay Area. He played for the San Jose Junior Sharks U14 AAA team in 2019-20 and put up 49 goals and 94 points in 54 games. Then he went to Shattuck St. Mary's and exploded again with 50 goals, 67 assists, and 117 points in 52 games with the 18U prep team. Then he went to the Chicago Steel in the USHL and somehow pushed the bar higher. 46 goals, 86 points in 50 games, under 17 league record, Player of the Year, Forward of the Year, Rookie of the Year, all of it in one season. And this is a good place to stop for a second, because this is where a lot of stories like this start to blur together. Big youth numbers. Then a tougher level comes along and things flatten out. That is usually where reality shows up. It did not happen here. Macklin went to Boston University and had one of the best freshman seasons college hockey has seen in years. 32 goals and 64 points in 38 games. Hobey Baker winner at 17, the youngest player ever to win it. That puts him in a tiny group of names, and not one of them needed people making excuses on their behalf. San Jose took him first overall in 2024, and from that moment, the story changed again. He was no longer hockey's top prospect. He was an NHL centerpiece, and the Sharks badly needed one. His rookie year gave them exactly what they were hoping for. 25 goals, 63 points in 70 games. Franchise rookie scoring record. All-rookie team. Third in Calder voting. No warm-up period, no awkward transition year. He looked like he belonged. And then this second season arrived, and the whole conversation got bigger. Through 68 games, he had 35 goals and 96 points, fifth in league scoring. Tied Joe Thornton for the third highest single-season point total in Sharks history. Still a teenager, still getting stronger, still learning the league while already bending it around him more often than most veterans ever do. That is where this family story starts getting serious. Because one superstar changes your attention. One superstar plus a drafted brother makes you curious. And then there is RJ. RJ was born in 2012, so the first rule here is simple. Nobody honest should talk about a 13-year-old like he's already ticketed for the NHL. That is how people embarrass themselves. Too much changes at that age. Bodies change, competition changes, confidence changes. Some kids level off. Still, you would be foolish to ignore what is already there. Reports from 2025 had RJ putting up 38 goals and 83 points in 30 games for North Shore Winter Club U14. Those are silly numbers. And the clips started moving because the skill jumps right off the screen. One championship goal in AAA play got shared everywhere. Deke, patience, finish. The play looked natural, not frantic. And the funny part is that even inside this family, RJ sounds like a different type of player. Macklin has described him as more offensive, more of a pure scorer. So if Aiden is the steady defenseman and Macklin is the complete center, RJ might become the family finisher. That is an interesting split. It makes the whole thing feel less like one family recipe and more like a full lineup taking shape. The Sutters are the standard for sheer volume. 6 brothers in the NHL, nearly 5,000 games, cups everywhere. The Tkachuks give you star power, edge, and championships. The Hughes brothers give you the modern version of skill, pace, and high-end draft status. Each family built its own identity. There is hockey in this story, obviously, but there is also soccer, performance science, NBA culture, and a level of planning that feels deliberate without feeling cold. Vancouver, San Jose, Shattuck, Brooks, Boston University. Every stop lines up with development. Every move feels like it was made with a long view in mind. That long view is what makes this story worth taking seriously, because this is not really about whether Macklin is special anymore. He already answered that. It is about whether the family can turn one elite path into a larger legacy. Aiden still has to make the NHL. He has accumulated 21 points in 102 NCAA games through 3 seasons at Boston University, with steady defensive usage and positive plus-minus numbers. That profile still points toward a long-term project. likely a bottom pairing, stay-at-home type if everything goes right, useful player, hard road. No guarantees. RJ is even farther away. Right now, he is still the little brother with huge youth numbers and enough skill to get people talking. That is all. Nothing more than that yet. Macklin is the pillar holding the whole idea up, and to his credit, he keeps giving the idea more room to breathe. He did not just dominate junior and college hockey, he stepped straight into the NHL and kept going. He also played for Canada at the 2026 Winter Olympics, scored at better than a point-per-game pace, and buried a pressure penalty shot with his parents and brothers watching from the stands. That is the kind of moment family stories live on. Still, history is not rewritten by promise. It gets rewritten by staying power, by years, by playoff runs, by awards that stack on top of each other until people stop debating and start accepting. That is the part still waiting for the Celebrinis, and that is what keeps this story interesting instead of finished. Because right now, they are sitting in the best possible place for a family like this. The foundation is obvious. The talent is real. The youngest brother gives the story another layer. The oldest keeps the NHL dream alive on the blue line. The middle brother already looks like a player who might end up wearing a letter, carrying a franchise, and shaping the next decade of the league. If Aiden reaches the NHL, the conversation changes. If RJ keeps climbing and becomes a top prospect, it changes again. If Macklin turns this early run into heart-level seasons and playoff relevance, then it gets even louder. At that point, you're not asking whether the Celebrinis belong in the conversation with the biggest hockey families. You're trying to rank them. Right now, the Celebrinis are not hockey's greatest family. They've not earned that. They have not piled up the cups, the games, the generations, or the trophies needed for that kind of statement. Not a fun hypothetical, not a social media storyline, a real chance to build something that lasts long enough and gets big enough that the league has to remember them together, not separately. That is why this is worth watching now, before the whole thing settles into place. Because the best hockey family stories usually feel obvious in hindsight. When they're happening, they feel a little bit hard to believe. And if the next few years break right, this might be the period people go back to later, the moment before the name fully took over.